Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about top 5 most underrated sports cars. 5 cars that should have gotten a lot more credit than they ended up getting. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alright guys, so number 5 on our list is the Saturn Sky Redline. This Saturn is pretty interesting because it was originally an Opel GT and then GM bought the rights to sell it as a Saturn in the United States. The Redline had a 260 horsepower Ecotec turbo engine, just same one as from the later model Cobalt SS cars. So with some minor mods, you could really get even more power out of these cars. They were pretty light, about 3,000 pounds even, and 0 to 60 about 5.5 seconds. You can imagine being pretty low to the ground in something this small. It's going to feel a lot faster than you probably are actually going. So it's got a great chassis and a pretty solid engine that is tunable, and I've heard of these cars being absolute killers in autocross. It is very, very similar to the Pontiac Solstice GXP. My personal opinion, I felt like the Saturn was a lot better looking, a lot cooler, and for some reason it just did not get the presence and the reputation that it really deserved. I feel like the Solstice kind of took over a lot of it. But nonetheless, this was a really solid sports car that was tunable for the money. It handled well. It was a lot of fun. It was neat, and it just didn't get all the credit it deserved. So number 4 on our list is the Mercedes-Benz SLK55 AMG. Particularly around the 2008 era, they put a 5.5 liter V8 engine in this car, and this is Mercedes-Benz smallest coupe car that were making at the time. The previous SLK AMGs had I believe the 3.2 liter compressor supercharged V6, which was pretty wild. But when they put a 5.5 liter V8 engine in such a small little roadster car, it was just absolute insanity. I mean, this engine is in the G-Wagon, and they put it in this car, which is so neat. 0 to 60 mid 4-second range, 365 horse. This engine was really detuned, understandably why they didn't want it to be overpowering for this chassis, and probably they didn't want it to compete a whole lot with the SL63 AMG. A couple of neat features with this car. The hood would open 90 degrees, which kind of plays tribute to the SLR McLaren, which is kind of neat. I don't know why Mercedes likes to do that, but it's really neat. It's pretty cool. It takes 2 people to close it usually. But and then number 2 cool feature about this car is that it has scarf warmers, so it'll blow hot air on your neck. So you can have the hardtop convertible down, the heated seats going in the winter, and you'll be good to go. You can shred in the middle of the night of winter and be as warm as you need to be. So this car was seriously underrated. That's why it's coming in at number 4 on our list. Take a look at these cars online. You can get one used for insanely cheap. And yeah, let's move on to number 3. Number 3 on our list is the Chrysler Crossfire SRT6. So I'm not really a huge fan of these cars, but you have to give credit where credit is due. This car shared the chassis and a hand-built AMG engine from the older SLK Mercedes. I guess this is a perfect segue, although not the V8 and not the '08 gen, but a little bit earlier, and the compressor V6 I had mentioned before, supercharged. So the car was quite deceiving because, you know, it is a Chrysler and so on and so forth, but it had 330 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque, and 13 years ago, that was a lot of power. It also had even a Mercedes-Benz G-Tronic automatic transmission as well. The manual transmission was from Chrysler, but funny little story I will tell you guys is I have a coworker who had built one of these up with some minor mods, tires, lowering springs, steel braided brakes, and I could not make this up. He was literally hanging with a McLaren 570S on a track day. Granted, this guy is a sick driver, but it just goes to show you, like, this is a solid, good, lightweight chassis, The engine's got a lot of potential. You can get a smaller pulley and a tune. It's hand built, and it's, you know, not from the outside. It's definitely, like I said, quite deceiving. But this car was seriously, unbelievably underrated. And if you wanted to get a car that could seriously upset some egos on a racetrack with not very much money, this would be the car to get, hands down, 100%. Alright guys, so next up on our list, coming in at number 2, is the Ford Fiesta ST. Now, I'm trying not to be biased here, as the Fiesta ST is actually a car that I personally own. In fact, the car in this photo is my car. I have driven every other car on this list pretty extensively, actually, except for the Chrysler Crossfire. So it's not like this is the only car that I am speaking from personal experience with. But why is this car coming in at number 2? So number 1 is the price. Right now, you can get one of these cars new for around $20,000, and I'm telling you guys, the amount of like performance and fun and reliability and options you have for this car at $20,000 is pretty freaking nuts. I mean, when you really get down to the nitty gritty and you understand like what this car is capable of, like through a canyon on a racetrack, just driving day to day, what a sweetheart of a car this thing is, and for that price to get one brand new is really seriously remarkable. Now the Focus STs, that's a great car, a lot of torque, likes to slide around a little bit, but unfortunately the Focus STs are pretty notorious for being unreliable. A lot of cylinder misfires, so on and so forth. The Fiesta ST, on the contrary, is really, really reliable. I've had mine for about 50,000 miles, and I haven't really had any issues with it. Maybe a dead battery, had to replace a tire, kind of normal stuff. It's been a great, really, really reliable car. There's a ton of aftermarket support. And to give you an example, I believe it was Dead Hook Motorsports ran 11 seconds on stock clutch, stock tranny, stock internals, which is like bolt-ons, you know, bolt-on turbo, bolt-on parts, a tune, and I believe a limited slip differential, wheels and tires, which is pretty nuts. I mean, you wouldn't be lying if you said that these cars were somewhat over-engineered. It's just a 1.6 turbo, makes about 200 horse and about 210 pound-feet of torque. It's about 2,750 pounds, so it's about the same weight as a FRS. And the chassis on these cars is super stiff. They aren't the best for everyday driving. I personally don't mind it too much, but it is a seriously awesome, fun package. For the money, it's unbelievable how much you can get this car for brand spanking new. This car did get quite a bit of credit. It was rated Car and Driver Car of the Year, but still, I think street-wise and just on the market, I don't think that they're getting the credit they deserve. They are still really underrated, and in a way, that's a good thing for you because you can get one of these used for a steal of a deal. So keep a lookout for these and at least give one a try. They are seriously underrated. Like I said, I didn't even consider test driving one until my buddy talked me into it, and then I ended up buying one. So anyways, let's move on to number 1. Alright, so number 1 on our list is the newer gen Acura NSX. And man, am I going to have a field day with this one. So back in the 90s, Acura, or should I say Honda, completely changed the game when they rolled out with the Acura NSX. It was entirely, the body was entirely constructed of aluminum, which was pretty rare. The valves were titanium. The key to the car was titanium and a high revving V6. And what really was the game changer with this car is that Honda proved you can have a pretty badass sports car that you can live with. It's pretty decent on gas, it's bulletproof, reliable, easy to drive, doesn't beat you up, good visibility, and that totally changed the game. Also, something super special about the original NSX is arguably the best race car driver to ever walk the planet, Adrian Senna. I hope I'm saying that right. Um, Beta tested this car. I mean, he helped build the car and basically gave his 2 cents to blast it around the Nürburgring a bunch of times and told them how to perfect this car, which I think is really special. So here we are today. Acura brings back the NSX, and it's a hybrid. It has 2 electric motors up front, a twin-turbo V6 mid-engine in the back. And myself, as well as a lot of car enthusiasts, were probably disappointed in that. They wanted a stick shift, more purist car. But you have to remember the reason why the NSX was special, like I said, was it proved that a sports car could be fun and, or I should say, a high-end, very, very high-end sports car, pretty much an exotic car, could be high-end, fun, and reliable, and easy to live with. That's really what the NSX is really most known for. That's how it made its biggest splash. And you can tell when you drive this car that that is what Honda or Acura kept their truths to. I've been lucky enough to drive this car quite a bit on track and whatnot, and I'm not kidding you guys, this is the most comfortable car I've ever been in. Not just a sports car, but ever, like any car. I mean, the seats are amazing. The steering wheel, the way you grip it, it's like it's perfectly designed for your hands. Where like in an R8 or a Huracan or a Ferrari, it's sort of like, yeah, it works pretty well. But when you grip the NSX steering wheel, it feels like it was like made, molded just perfectly for your hands. Um, you can put it in EV mode, it won't even make a sound. You just kind of putt around. Or you can put it in Sport Plus or Track and you can absolutely shred. The car still sustains a lot of like fun, good feeling feedback. Like I said, even though it is a hybrid and so on and so forth. One thing about it being a hybrid that is a huge plus is a lot of mid-engine sports cars like 458 Ferrari, for example, is a perfect example. Super light on the nose. If you don't know how to trail brake really well, you're going to have trouble. You're going to understeer and you're going to question why the car was so expensive. It's the kind of car that to get the most out of you really need to know how to drive it. The NSX, you're going to feel like a race car driver out the gate because it has those 2 electric motors on top of each wheel in the front. So you always have a lot of front grip from those electric motors. Plus, of course, everyone knows the torque. It's phenomenal. It's fantastic. When you get this car revving up to about 7 or 8,000 RPM, it sounds like a million hornets that just came out of hell, just sizzling behind you. The sound is incredible, and it doesn't sound like exhaust. It sounds like just pure engine noise, which is so fantastic. So this car is seriously unbelievably underrated. It's incredibly endearing, and it's really, really sad. Acura is having a very hard time selling them. They just dropped the price from 150 to 130. And when you consider the 918, the LaFerrari, and the P1, also hybrid exotic cars, are selling for million or so, and this car you can get for 130. I think that's pretty awesome and pretty amazing. I mean, yeah, those cars are at another level, but I'm telling you, this car could probably do 90% of what those cars can do for 1/10 of the price. So it is absolutely gorgeous. And if it had a horse or a bull on the hood, they could sell it for 3 or 4 times more. I can guarantee you that. If you ever get a chance to drive one, it's going to blow you away. It's an amazing car. And it is very sad that it unfortunately hasn't done so well. This might be the runt and the very last high-end sports car from Acura or Honda that we see, maybe ever or for a really long time. I really hope not. But anyways, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this list. And if you would like more, please like and subscribe and stick around. I really appreciate this support. Thank you so much.